Tread the circle thrice about to keep unwelcome spirits out. Bide within the law you must, in perfect love and perfect trust. Mind the threefold laws you should, 3 times bad and 3 times good. These 8 words the reed fulfill, and ye harm none, do what ye will.
The lady sits in her old front door as straight as a willow wand. By there comes a lusty smith with a hammer in his hand, saying, "Bide, lady, bide, there's nowhere you can hide, for the lusty smith will be your love, and he will lay your pride." Why do you sit there, lady fair, all in your robes of red? I'll come back tomorrow and I'll have you in me bed, singing, "Bide, lady, bide, there's nowhere you can hide, for the lusty smith will be your love, and he will lay your pride." Away, away, you cold blacksmith, would you do me this wrong? For to have me maidenhead that I have kept so long, I'd rather I was dead and cold and me body in the grave, than a lusty, dusty, cold blacksmith my maidenhead should have, singing, "Bide, lady, bide, there's nowhere you can hide, for the lusty smith will be your love, and he will lay your pride." So the lady, she curled up her hand and she swore upon the mould that he'd not have her maidenhead for all a pot of gold. But the blacksmith, he curled up his hand and he swore upon the mast that he would have her maidenhead for half of that or less, singing, "Bide, lady, bide, there's nowhere you can hide, for the lusty smith will be your love, and he will lay your pride." So the lady, she turned into a dove and flew up in the air, but he became an old cock pigeon and they flew pair and pair. So the lady, she turned into a mare as dark as night was black, but he became a golden saddle and climbed up on her back, singing, "Bide, lady, bide, there's nowhere you can hide, for the lusty smith will be your love, and he will lay your pride." So the lady, she turned into a hare and ran all over the plain, but he became a greyhound dog and ran her down again. So the lady, she turned into a fly and fluttered in the air, but he became a hairy spider and dragged her in his lair, singing, "Bide, lady, bide, there's nowhere you can hide, for the lusty smith will be your love, and he will lay your pride." So the lady, she turned into a sheep grazing on the common, but he became a horny ram and soon he was upon her. So she turned into a full-dress ship and sailed over the sea, but he became a bold captain and aboard her went he, singing, "Bide, lady, bide, there's nowhere you can hide, for the lusty smith will be your love, and he will lay your pride." So the lady, she turned into a cloud floating in the air, but he became a lightning flashed and zipped right into her. So she turned into a mulberry tree in the wood, but he came forth as the morning dew and sprinkled her where she stood, singing, "Bide, lady, bide, there's nowhere you can hide, for the lusty smith will be your love, and he will lay your pride." So the lady, she ran into the bedroom and changed into a bed, but he became a green coverlet and gained her maidenhead. And once she awoke, he took her soul, and still he bade her bide, for the lusty smith became her love for all her mighty pride, singing, "Bide, lady, bide, there's nowhere you can hide, for the lusty smith will be your love, and he will lay your pride."
Welcome to Stirring the Cauldron. Now, here's your host, Marla Brooks.
Merry meet everybody. Happy Valentine's Day and welcome to Stirring the Cauldron here on the Para X Radio Network. Traditionally, Valentine's Day is a day of hearts and flowers, candy, romance, Valentine's card, and music. And tonight I've got lots of heart, but more importantly, I've got music. And it just happens to be the kind of music that I love. My guest tonight is Damh the Bard, a modern-day bard whose spirituality and love of folk tradition is expressed through his music, story, telling, and poetry. Drawing on the bardic tradition, his performances are both entertaining and educational, speaking directly and appropriately today to the heart, and never without a good splash of humor. Damh, happy Valentine's Day and welcome to Stirring the Cauldron.
Hey. It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me on. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, and I'm starting the humor by flubbing the intro, so this is a good start. I love it.
Well, it is a good start. There's no doubt about it.
It is. As long as you're smiling, that's all that's important.
Oh, yeah.
Now, our opening song tonight was Two Magicians, and that's the type of traditional folk song that I grew up listening to, songs like Thomas the Rhymer, Alison Gross, The Ups and Downs, King Henry. And while I love the music, it's also the stories that they tell. Some are bawdy, some are humorous, some might even be considered scandalous in this day and age.
Yes, indeed.
Magicians. Tell us about the Two Magicians, and because I read something very interesting about it that you wrote, but tell us about what it's all about.
Okay, well, I basically that was from an album of folk songs I put together called Tales from the Crowman, and I wanted to give something back to the tradition, to play some of these old songs that I'd been hearing all my life. And The Two Magicians is a funny old song. I really kind of questioned whether I even wanted to record it, because I think the way that certain things are done within that song with today's morals are pretty damn questionable. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. If anybody listened to the words, they were probably, the chins were dropping during the opening.
Yeah. It's from a different age. And I think that essentially for me, it was the idea of two magicians changing shape. And that whole kind of shape-shifting element within it that made me want to include it. But also, it's got a fantastic tune. I mean, I'm a melody man, really. I know I'd write lyrics as well, but the hook to me is always the tune. That's what draws me in. And that Bide, Lady Bide, there's nowhere you can hide for the lusty smith, all that kind of stuff. I couldn't resist it in the end. So, although it's not exactly the best song for the promotion of equality and feminism, I'd have to say that the tune does it for me every time.
Well, they were outdoing, and it's lyrically funny in the sense that, for example, she turns herself into a cloud. So what does he do? He's smart. He goes and turns himself into lightning, and boom, there he is.
Yes.
Or she turns herself, into a fly, and here he's a hairy spider dragging her into the lair.
That's right.
But I was reading something interesting about that said that those lyrics at the time were not meant to be taken literally. They were kind of a joke. They were kind of a tease, which is even more kind of fascinating as far as understanding the difference between how we would take it now and how they took it then. It had no negative moral implications. It was just kind of a game. It was cat and mouse.
Yeah, it was cat and mouse. It was a game. It was it's very tongue in cheek, I think, as well. And although that's probably the worst thing to say right now, but we did say human. Yeah, I don't think it's to be taken seriously, to be honest with you. But You know, they had a sense of humour, certainly, about that kind of thing in those days.
They did.
Yeah, I remember my mum and dad sitting down and we were watching Tom and Jerry, and you know, for years and years that was considered terrible, you know, a terrible thing, you know. But it certainly didn't do me any harm. So there we are.
Well, not that you'll admit to, anyway, right?
No.
Well, you know, you've been quite musical from a very early age. So there was no doubt in your mind what you wanted to be when you grew up. You started playing guitar when you were 8.
That's
you
right.
started performing publicly when you were 11. But you went through many phases between then and now. So tell us a little bit about that journey from the kid with the guitar playing in pubs to the teenager in rock bands to becoming the singer, songwriter, and modern-day bard.
Well, I started learning the acoustic guitar. That was my introduction. I was taught from the age of 8 by an Irish folk musician called Tim O'Leary, who couldn't read music, so he taught me to play by ear, and I still can't read music to this day. Everything I write because it sounds good, and not because, you know, the rules of music tell me that it all works together. Well, you know, when you get to be a teenager, there's a bit of angst to get out, isn't there? You know, I don't know. And I was weaned on the Rolling Stones, and you know, everything from the Rolling Stones to Johnny Cash and you know, John Denver by my parents, and Ralph McTell and all that kind of stuff. But it was when I heard a band in the 70s called The Sweet do a song called Blockbuster, and it had this opening riff. I don't know if The Sweet ever got out to the States, but it had an amazing riff, and it was the first time I'd ever heard really kind of distorted guitar, and you know, and that was, I thought, now this is what I've been waiting for, you know. And so I really got into rock music throughout my teenage years. You know, I mean, probably my introduction to paganism, magic, the occult, that kind of thing was Ozzy Osbourne and Black Sabbath, you know. So when these parents say, oh, you know, don't listen to Black Sabbath, it will get you into the magic. Well, yes, it will, and I'm living proof of it. But it hasn't done
and proudly, yes.
Absolutely proudly. It's absolutely fine, you know. And of course, what I found, because I'd been taught Irish folk music or folk music, acoustic folk music, when it came to play rock music, I couldn't do it. I couldn't get my head around electric guitars and amplification and that kind of thing. But because I think I'd been taught to play by ear, I had a fairly natural rhythm. So for those years, I went and I played drums, actually. I was at the back of the stage, which didn't do me any good at all. I was sort of far happier at the front. But so I played drums throughout that time. And then what actually happened was we you know, the band I was in got quite far. There was a place called the Marquee Club in London, which is quite a prestigious place. The Who started there. A lot of bands started there. It was the first kind of proper gig to a full career, really, once you got to that point. And we got a headlining slot at the Marquee, but unfortunately one of the band members left just before our gig, and we never got to play. And that was the point when I just thought, you know what, I'm kind of through with bands now. I've had it, you know. If that's going to happen every time, then forget it. And at the same period of time in my life, I had my first son came along. And that also kind of stopped me listening to certain bands for a number of years. I was very much into thrash metal at the time. So I was into Slayer and Anthrax and Metallica and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. But I looked at this baby and I just thought, you know, it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen in my life. And I couldn't imagine anything horrible happening to it. And the subject matter of a lot of those bands they're not pleasant. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of just stopped listening to it, and actually went back to my acoustic guitar. And all of the rock fans listening to your show now will be going, Splitter! I hope they'll be glad to know that I got over it and I started to listen to rock music again quite quickly. But nonetheless, it was going back to that. It was at that also time because my introduction to magic was through Aleister Crowley as well, which, again, on some levels I know it's a lot of people's introduction, but again, he's not the best advert for the pagan community. Let's put it that way. But it was all that was available at the time. There weren't the books available on Wicca. There weren't, there was only, I think, one book available on Druidry, and that was Stuart Piggott's book that basically said all modern Druids were just fakers and it wasn't real. And so my introduction was very much through magic. And the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn and ceremonial magic and that kind of thing. But it was at that same time that my son was born, I picked up the acoustic guitar, and that was when I started to look outside of what was, to me, quite a heady path, quite an intellectual path. Ceremonial magic for me, wasn't a path of the heart, it was a path of the head. And I started to look very much for a path of the heart and connection with the land. And that's when I discovered the Order of Bards, Ovates and Druids. And you've heard it 100 million times, I'm sure. But for me, it was like coming home, like it is for most people, at that point where you just go, this is it. I found it. I found my path. I'm home. And all of that happened in the same year. The kind of rediscovery of acoustic music, the discovery of a spiritual path that held within it the path of the bard, the musician, the storyteller, the poet, all things that were so dear to my heart. And that was it. I haven't kind of looked back since, really. So that was the journey. Yeah.
And it resonates so well because I know that I started listening to your music because of two songs, The Cauldron Born and Pagan Ways. Mm-hmm. They were songs that made me feel like I was home, that I could relate to them. And I think we all start with just a little bit of a push into that. We'll hear something and it's right. It's like buying that pair of shoes that fit perfectly rather than trying on, 50,000. Yeah. And I know it's also very difficult for people to sometimes find their path. Paganism comes to people sometimes late in life. Sometimes they're born into it. There are many different ways. But it's comfortable, it's cushy, it's perfect. And these two songs, when I heard them, I was like, whoa, this guy knows what he's talking about. This guy feels what we're all feeling. Well, most of us. And it's amazing. Yeah. And I started listening to more and more.
Yeah, it's interesting. Those two songs are the songs that I've written, I guess, that sum up that emotion. So it obviously worked. The Cauldron Born was literally a case of, it was written with that moment in time where maybe you start to talk to trees and you start to walk off and go for long walks into the woods, and maybe your family don't quite understand you or what's happening to you, and maybe you're feeling just a little bit alone and out there, and maybe you're even questioning whether or not you've lost your mind, and then of course you find other groups and other people who feel the same way, and you find out you're not alone. And that's what both of those songs are about. It's that discovery of the community, the pagan community.
That you're not a stranger to it, because the community welcomes you in with open arms, which
that's
is
right.
Without question. And I think that's the lovely part of it. And you're funny, you start seeing things and looking at trees and everything. With me, it was looking at mushrooms, around a stump of a tree.
Yeah.
And thinking, okay, so where are the fairies? Or I really should leave something out for them. That kind of thing.
Yes.
And it's just, I can't, if somebody is not pagan, if they're not into it, they may not understand it so much, but the ability to just find something and feel so much at home is really, really important. And your songs kind of open the door for that in many ways.
And that seeing the mushrooms at the base of the tree, and then thinking, where are the fairy? I don't quite know what you mean by fairy, but maybe if it's the spirit of place, the spirit of place, or whatever. Mm-hmm. That feeling is totally human. Human beings have been feeling that feeling upon seeing magical things and formations of plants for thousands and thousands of years. And although, we don't know necessarily everything that our ancestors did, one of the things we do know is that they were very animistic, and they saw those spirits in nature. And so that is the point where I think we find part of our true humanity,
And a lot of people see magic. No, I love it. A lot of people see magic and don't realize that that's what it is. But I dare say that when you do and don't know what it is, you still, something clicks inside of you. It's not like you're not imagining what you're feeling. It's just it's embracing nature. It's believing it. Well, as I say, a lot of people live in the black and white. I live in the gray, where there's all sorts of possibilities. Nothing
Absolutely.
is impossible.
Yeah.
And being able to live in that gray is the perfect place to be. And it's not negating the real world. It's not turning your back on the norm, But for us, that is the norm as well. Yeah. Opening our eyes, opening our hearts, opening our emotion to things that maybe aren't always tangible.
That's right. I think one of the challenges is there's a temptation to try and find spiritual paths that help you to escape so-called reality. The world we live in, the day-to-day schlep of getting up to work, all of the things that we do as human beings, shopping, all that kind of stuff, challenges in our lives. And sometimes spiritual paths can act as a crutch or as an escape to help us to try and see something apart from that. But to me, the challenge is actually to blend the two, like two massive circles that cross over. And there's that blending of the two circles of I hate to say it, but what people call mundane and spiritual, And for me, the challenge is to make the mundane spiritual, is so that you have that magic in your everyday life, which is a challenge, But I think that's when your spirituality really becomes a part of you, Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, it might be difficult for 21st century brains to understand and appreciate the songs, the ballads in the past, but in truth, they're the heart and soul of who we once were, as well as who we are now. And you believe that it's your job not only to entertain, but also to take your audiences on a journey through the old stories and myths of the land to help understand our ancient heritage. And people that know me, I'm always on my soapbox about embracing, learning about, and respecting the old ways, and revering those who have come before us. So what compels you to take people on this journey into the past through your songs and poetry?
For me, it's connection. It's a connection. It's making that connection between the past and the present for me. I'm not a bard or a druid who constantly looks to the past and thinks that's where it was. They had the magic, they had the wisdom, and we have got to look back all the time to find it. What I think is that held within folklore and held within what we already know and what we do as human beings, and our stories and our myths are teachings and ways that are absolutely right for our modern age. for instance, I read something beautiful the other day of a Western child looking at a mountain. When they're being taught by their parents or their school, they may see a resource for mining, for making money, for, you know, it's all about what I can use that mountain for. Mm-hmm. But maybe the old way of looking at the mountain would be to say that mountain is standing in the north and protects us from the cold winds. Mm-hmm. And therefore it's the protector, and because it's our protector, we have to look after it. And it's that kind of relationship that I want my songs to encourage. So it's a song, it basically is, they are songs that help make that connection to the natural world, but not a connection that says it's there for us to use and it's, you know, our dominion as we've been taught for 2,000 years. But it's, we are a human animal and we are part of this world. And we have the greatest opportunity to be the most helpful animal in the history of the planet, but we don't. We're the most destructive. And it's like, you know, so it's that kind of, you know, that these stories, I think, help us to make that direct relationship with the land and with our ancestors. And that's what I think is really important, probably more important now than ever before in the history of this world. You
exactly.
know? Yeah.
Exactly. Now, a lot of your songs come from personal experience and from the heart, like, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, Imrama.
Yeah, yeah.
Which deals with your own personal soul journey. And this being a Valentine's Day show, I thought that Ever With Me would be a good choice as we go to break.
Yeah.
And when we come back, I'm going to ask you for the story behind that song.
Okay.
So everyone, sit back, relax, and we'll be right back in just a couple of minutes with Damh the Bard.
Sailing miles on an endless sea, the shoulders of the ocean carry me, a sign of life, a haven shore. My sails catch the wind and I'm home once more, a tired sailor coming home from war. I can ride the storm, for I know that she is ever with me, ever with me. The way that the sun shines, she is ever with me, ever with me. The way that the sun shines, ever with me. She was there through the darkest times, when the sunlight didn't seem to shine. Took my hand and she led me through the maze I had fallen into, and in the center I stand with you. I feel alive again, for I know that she is ever with me, ever with me. The way that the sun shines, she is ever with me, ever with me. as the sands of time slip through my fingers as it passes by. In this life I can call my own, for I know that I am not alone. She will find me and lead me home. And through the passing years I know that she is ever with me, ever with me. The way that the sun shines, she is ever with me, ever with me. The way that the sun shines, ever with me.
Okay, we're back with my guest, singer-songwriter Damh the Bard. So Damh, tell us the story behind Ever With Me.
Ever With Me is such a simple little tune, just guitar and voice. I didn't want to make it any more complicated than that when I recorded it. That's exactly how I wrote it. It really is, it works on a number of levels, that song. I was going through a particularly hard time in my life when I wrote that song. I'd, had one of those life-changing experiences, and felt very much adrift, which is what the opening line is. Sitting on an open sea, the shoulders of the ocean carry me. It felt very much as if I was just adrift on a large ocean. The ocean and water being, the element of water and the emotion. So I was adrift on an emotional sea, and the shoulders of the ocean carry me. So I felt supported by that, but also kind of lost. And I was looking for that companionship. Now, for me, that companionship came in the form of the goddess. I had always had a very strong relationship with Old Horny. I had that relationship for a long time. So me and Kanunos and Pan and Hearn and the Green Man, they're my mates. But I had always yearned for a relationship with the goddess or a goddess, and it was during the writing of that song that I found a goddess who was with me for many years, and that was Blodeuwedd. And the Lady of Flowers, the owl, the spring maiden, and it was that connection that kind of got me through that time. It's also a human thing, because at the same point it was when I really started to fall in love with someone else on the human realm as well. And so that, you've got it absolutely there, in as much as it can be both levels. It can be a spiritual thing, a spiritual being who is ever with you, or it can be your partner, who there is always that person in life. It might even just be a friend, but there's that person in life. If as long as you've got friends, you can pretty much get through anything, and that's what that song's about. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, I know this may be like asking a parent which of their children is their favorite, but do you have a particular song that stands out above the rest?
Oh dear, it really is actually.
Traitor to your writing, right? Yes.
It really is like trying to choose a favourite son or a good daughter, and I can't do that, because they're all very important to me. I never. Every song I write is a journey for me. But I guess for me, the one that I never tire playing, ever, and I'd probably get lynched if I didn't play it at a concert, was Green and Grey, to be honest with you. It's yeah, that's a very important song for me. I'm not sure if it's my favourite, but it's probably one of the most important songs I've ever written. I had to get that into this world, that song. Yeah.
Well, importance and favorite go hand in hand.
Yes. It's also the one I think's been covered the most. I've seen people on YouTube cover it, and I mean that really gets me. I just love that. I wrote these songs originally just as a gift to the pagan community, to say, look, we had a lot of chants that I heard around campfires. Yeah, we all come from the goddess, the river is flowing, all those things, and I love them, right? Yes. But when I first came to paganism, the one thing I thought, do you know what we need? We need our own songs. I wouldn't say hymns, but we need our own songs. And I thought, well, I'm gonna write some and see what happens. and my whole thrust, and it probably still is to this day, is that these are a gift, so that when pagan camps get together and there's someone there with a guitar and they just start up playing one of those songs from one of my albums, and if other people around the campfire know it and join in, to me, that is a success. That's, to me, they've arrived, and that is exactly what I wrote them to do. So seeing people on YouTube cover them just fills me up with absolute joy. I love it.
Well, in addition to doing concerts, you also give talks, you run workshops, participate in panel discussions all over the world, talking about Druidry, Alan, and the creative quest, magic, Arthurian lore, and so much more. Where do you find your inspiration, or does the inspiration find you?
I'm very much with Keith Richards on this, the guitar player of the Rolling Stones. He says when you're looking for inspiration, it's like fishing, and that all of the things, all of the songs, and all of the inspiration that ever has been exists out there in a great big sea, and you cast your rod out into the sea. And every now and again, you'll be lucky enough to catch a whole fish, a whole thing, and you reel it in. And go, that's it, So it's part of the case of the fish swimming towards you, but it's also always being that fisherman, always that casting for the sun, trying to get that inspiration to hook onto. It's the quest of the bard, isn't it? To taste, the drops of Arwen for me, and so. So yeah, a lot of it is looking for it. Although I've found time and time again, if I sit down and say to myself, right, I'm going to write a song today, forget it. That is not the way it works.
No, as a writer, I can relate to that. You just, yeah, sure, I'm going to sit down and do 10 pages today. Well, no, maybe you're not, It has to be the muse striking before anything like that works out.
Indeed.
It's amazing.
You'll be driving, you'll be driving your car and you'll suddenly hear this wonderful melody and you just go, oh my God, no. And all I can say is, I'm really glad Apple invented Siri in those moments. Because I can send myself a text message with a melody in it,
Yeah, well, exactly. Or you wake up in the middle of the night even. I mean, it's as simple as that. We don't know when it strikes, but it's always good to have a pen and paper around because, it's not, even in conversation, you'll be talking to somebody and they'll say a phrase, just a random phrase. And all of a sudden it's like lightning strikes the top of your head. And it's like, okay, now I've got to get to work. And it may be the most inopportune time to do it, but you need to drop everything and do that at that point.
But if you don't write it down and if you don't record the melody into some kind of recording device, you will forget it within half an hour. Absolutely. That's what I found, so, it's really important to grab it when it works.
And do you find the melodies start going through your head?
Yes, that's the way that it starts with me. I will get a hook of a melody. The chorus of the Hillsdale Hollow, for instance, came to me while I was driving. The Hillsdale Hollow and home to the Fae that dance on Midsummer's Eve. Those two lines and the tune came to me, and I had to record it. And then when I got home, I worked out where the chords were and what the rest of the song sounded like. So, yeah, it's just every now and again those things will happen. And then on the other hand, you've got songs like Bridget from my latest album. I'd been wanting to write a song in honour of her for years and years and years, and so many different forms of that song went straight into the rubbish bin because I just didn't think it did her justice. And then suddenly I just got that opening chord progression and the melody and the words just fell on the page. It was like she was whispering them into my ear. And
well, she probably was.
Well, she probably was. It was kind of like, Dave, I'm fed up with this. I'm going to tell you how the song should go.
Yes, I've given you quite enough chance to do it on your own now. Listen to me. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. Indeed. Well, we were talking about inspiration, and much of the U.S. has been under severe blizzard conditions the past few weeks, and in general have had a very, very rough winter. So I'm thinking that everyone is kind of looking hard to Beltane when the sun shines again and starts to warm the earth. And I think that's my clever segue into the next song, and I hope I'm pronouncing that one right. Helston Toe.
Oh, right. Yes, indeed. Absolutely. Yes. Yes. Helston Toe. Do you want me to add it before or after?
We've got a minute or two. Yeah, go ahead and tell me.
Okay. Helston Toe is a Cornish song. It was, I think they sing it mostly around the town of Helston in the far reaches of Cornwall, which is the toe. If you're looking at the shape of Britain, it's the toe that sticks out to the west. It's a Celtic land, and Helston Toe is part of the Cornish language. And as far as I'm aware, it literally means raise the roof. And it's sung at the Beltane festival in Helston, but it's also a classic folk song that is sung in folk clubs all over the world as well. Normally sung a cappella, with no backing, but I kind of found my own arrangement to it, and I think it makes a cracking song with music as well. So yeah, love it.
It does. It's a very toe-tapping song, so I think people that will be listening will probably be getting up. I'll probably be dancing with my broom for, a couple of minutes, and we will be right back after Helston Toe.
Take no scorn to wear the horn, was the crest when you were born. Your father's father wore it, and your father wore it too. Helston Toe, jolly rumble, we were up long before the day, to welcome in the summertime, welcome in the May, the summer is a-coming in, and winter's gone away. Robin Hood and Little John have both gone to the fair, and we shall to the merry greenwood to hunt the bark and hare. Oh, Helston Toe, jolly rumble, we were up long before the day, to welcome in the summertime, welcome in the May, the summer is a-coming in, and winter's gone away. What happened to the Spaniard? The mates so brave, the boast, that they shall eat the feathered goose, we shall eat the roast. Oh, Helston Toe, jolly rumble, we were up long before the day, to welcome in the summertime, welcome in the May, the summer is a-coming in, and winter's gone away. bless you with all their power and might, oh, and send their peace upon us. Bring peace by day and night, oh, Helston Toe, jolly rumble, we were up long before the day, oh, to welcome in the summertime, welcome in the May, oh, for summer is a-coming in and winter's gone away.
Okay, well, I think I've just put my dancing broom away because that was a very lively song and I love it. But in keeping with the Valentine's theme, I'm going to venture a guess and say that the word love is one of the most difficult words in the English language to define. And yesterday I came across a poem that you wrote entitled Love, and I think you've indeed captured the essence of what love is all about. So for those who still might be scratching their heads trying to figure out what love really is, could you please share it?
Oh, well, this was written some time ago, but I think I've read it through again and I think I still believe in it. So I will read it to you, yeah? Okay. Unriddle me this. What is love but heartbreak and pain? I will tell you. The feelings of fullness, of passion, of desire, but more. Love is the gentlest of touches. Meeting with smiles in the shadows, the freshener of spring, the surf of a wave, a tear of joy, of wonder, the first leaf to grow and the last to fall, the sweetness of a kiss, the life within breath, a quivering heart, both shaking in anticipation. Dew on the web, the stillness of a lake, and the wildness of a hurricane. Love is the changing seasons. After love, nothing is the same. Love is fire and water, air and earth. The first gaze of a newborn eye. A giver, a taker with no remorse. It drinks from the caresses of a lover's lips. It is both dark and light, yielding and forceful, the surrender in a lover's eye, a tower, a prison, and the dearest of keys. This I will feel until the last snows melt, the last cuckoo calls, and the last tear falls. That is love to me.
That is perfection to me. Yeah, I read it and I thought, gee, I wonder if he'll do this for me because it was amazingly accurate on all points. And,
yeah, it's kind of confusing, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know?
How did you come to that conclusion? All those conclusions, life experience, or
by feeling it. To be honest, and just writing down what I was feeling, you know, at the time, and that was all of those things that I was feeling, put into words. So, straight from the horse's mouth, as they say, in the flush of love. Yeah.
Well, not to be corny, but it was lovely. It really was.
Thank you.
It's one of those things that gives you the warm fuzzies, you know, and those are never bad. Now, you know, I did a lot of research. I went looking around and I found some really neat things about you. I want you to tell us a little bit about the Bardic blog and your website, because that's where people can find out more about you and your music, your concerts, appearances, workshops, and all the rest.
Yeah. Well, my website is like a lot of people's. The website is the hub of everything Dave. So if you go to paganmusic.co.uk, that's paganmusic.co.uk, you'll find links there to my YouTube channel where I, you know, when the new album was coming out, I put up some a making of video for all of the songs with the stories behind each of the songs. So the YouTube channel link's there, the Twitter, the Facebook, all the usual suspects, and you'll also find the link to the Bardic blog there. And what I try and do there is to do, I try to do 2 posts a week, but you know how life can be. Sometimes, it's not written as a contract. So, but my idea is to do a spiritual post early on in the week, and then a musical post later on in the week. But what I'm managing is the spiritual one. And actually, do you know what? That's what a lot of people are really enjoying on the blog, because I'm not trying to tell people how to be with these spiritual posts. So they're just literally how I feel about, the wearing of robes, whether or not leaving offerings, for instance. I did one recently of whether or not leaving offerings at sacred sites is debris and littering, or if it's valid. And that one, that blog post went all over the world. It was crazy. Obviously touched a nerve, and I really enjoy writing the blog. I'm going to try and do a little bit more writing. It's something that's on the horizon. I can feel that kind of that urge to sit in front of a computer and to actually write something, whether that be a novel or a book. I'm not sure how it will come out, but that's in the future, I'm sure. So yeah, paganmusic.co.uk. Find it all there. Come and have a read of the blog. Drop us an email. Follow us on Twitter. Follow us on Facebook. Say hello. I answer every single person who talks to me on my Facebook page will get a personal response. That I think that's, if people take the time to leave me a message, they will get a message back from me, every single time.
Oh, that's fantastic. And also, don't forget, people can sit and listen to music as well.
That's right.
And,
yes. There's the music player on the front page. Yeah. And also, I don't know if you found, but I produce a monthly podcast myself for the Order of Bards, Ovates and Druids called Druidcast. I think there's been something like 69 or 70 issues of that, going back years, with interviews with people like Ronald Hutton and all those kinds of things. They're all still online, so, plenty of Dave to listen to.
Well, I really want to thank you for joining me tonight. It was a pleasure having you. And please come back. Definitely come back.
Yes, I will. Absolutely. Let me know, and we'll have another chat. Absolutely.
Yes, and we are going to take our leave tonight with a song, appropriately enough, called "The Parting Glass." So, everybody we can all say goodbye, and happy Valentine's Day, everybody. And until next week, blessed be, and merry meet again. Good night.
Blessed be.
Of all the money e'er I had, I have spent it in good company, and of all the harm that e'er I've done, alas, it was to none but me. And all I've done for want of wit to memory now I cannot recall. So fill to me the parting glass. Good night and joy be with you all. Of all the comrades there I've had, they are sorry for my going away, and all the sweethearts there I've loved, they would wish me one more day to stay. But since it falls unto my lot that I should part But since it has so ordered been, for a time to rise and a time to fall, so fill to me the parting glass. Good night and joy be with you all.
This has been another edition of Stirring the Cauldron with Marla Brooks. Be sure to tune in next week at the same time for another great guest and more fun. Any rebroadcast or other use of this program without permission is strictly prohibited. Copyright 2009.
You have been listening to the Para X Radio Network.